Well, welcome and thank you again for joining us. We're in the midst of our August series for going through the summer called Summer Playlist, where we're just going to talk about songs that kind of had different elements of our life, whether it's more recent or today's, which is more 25 years ago.
Blast in the past.
Yeah, just sort of how these songs have just sort of been just inspirational for us in our faith and following Jesus, and how it's just kind of been helpful. And so we're kind of we're going to go through. We've done we've had two come out now. We've definitely not. I got lost here. I guess by the time you see this recording, we'll have met in person where we talked about seeing that we're sort of recording that before we meet in person in a little over a week from this time. Anyway, when you see it, it's all confusing.
I'm totally lost.
It's the multiverse. That's what. Anyway, whatever day you're watching this is the day it's on.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're just talking about some songs, and so today is my turn to share a song, and we're gonna kind of talk about something that is actually fairly meaningful to me, just as far as a artist altogether. But music has always been like a huge kind of thing for me for as long as I can remember. Music is something that helps me, and I think a lot of us, just connect to things. We can listen to a certain song, it can take us back to whatever moment, a memory, or a person, good or bad. And even if that thing is removed from many years ago, it can take us right back there. And it make it real. Even if we're watching, a movie, sometimes it's the music that allows us to really connect to the moment. It makes a huge part.
I think too, in that same vein, for me, if I'm feeling a certain way, if I'm happy or I'm sad, then it makes me want to listen to different kinds of music.
Yeah, absolutely.
That can either help my mood or sometimes even make it worse if I really want to wallow in it, which can happen. And music is a very powerful mood stimulant or changer.
It really is. So the artist we're talking about today, for me, it could have been many songs that they've done, but it's Third Day. This is a band that's been hugely inspirational for me. I've seen them 3 times, and just actually a couple months ago saw Mac Powell, who was the lead singer of Third Day. They disbanded about 6 years or so ago. I just saw him, so I've seen the band 3 times. I've seen Mac Powell recently one time, and he did a bunch of Third Day songs, much as well as his solo stuff. Yeah. And they're kind of inspirational for me because they really helped me find my voice, because I do sound fairly similar to Mac Powell when I sing. So it's been both encouraging yet the bane of my existence.
Okay. So explain how it helped you find your voice.
Well, I think it just when I heard his voice, when I realized just tonally he was in a similar place to me, it just sort of and it almost just helped me I don't know, just to sort of that this might sound good and all that sort of stuff, and just to approach it, it's somewhat of an encouragement when you you hear people that I guess kind of sing in a similar kind of tonality as you. Yeah,
because sometimes lead singers can be very intimidating because they have either great vocal range or they have a certain tonal quality or raspy quality or whatever to their voice that sort of suits their music in a way that makes you feel like I could never do that. And Absolutely. This is the opposite for you.
Well, this is there. There's all of a sudden I was like, this is really, I can do this. I can pull this off. And so a lot of the bands I was in, we would do some of their songs. And so this is what I found in that whole idea of sounding like him. Again, I ultimately would say it's very, very encouraging. It was really endearing when I started singing, because people would tell me you sound like him, and that's kind of, and I think for the most part it was a compliment, and it felt great, because truthfully, when somebody is saying, hey, you really sound like this, it's usually very hey, you sound like someone who's professional. It's like, oh, hey, that sounds really, really good. You're comparing me to this professional. But after a while, you kind of want to get complimented for the quality of your own voice,
Well,
not
yeah.
just who you sound like.
Well, I have a funny story about that, actually.
Okay.
When I first started in children's ministry, I'm not really known for being much of a singer. So we'd sing along with tracks, and we used to sing the song Big House.
Yeah.
And of course, I picked the audio adrenaline version
Yep.
because I kind of like that. And there was one of the girls in the children's ministry that was kind of almost a teenager. So she was getting into some more music, including audio adrenaline. And one day she very innocently said to me, "When we sing that song, you sound just like the lead singer of audio adrenaline." And she didn't realize we were just singing along with the track. Not the same thing, but it just
Well, yeah, it's kind of a fun feeling.
I just
That's really good. But yeah, on that, people, it's kind of a funny thing what people do when they come up to you after they've heard you sing, and they say you sound like Mac Powell from Third Day, and but when people say it with such, again, really really sincerely, but like they almost like, hey, do you know, you probably never heard this before. It's like, no, I've heard it plenty of before. In fact, just 2 minutes ago, kind of that sort of idea. So after a while, I actually kind of got jaded in the idea of kind of sounding like him. I'd hear that, and I actually used to pitch songs I was doing, so at least in my own head I sounded a little
different,
less like that. And even about 6 or 7 years ago, somebody from the church said I should do this song that was actually a Third Day song. I just immediately said no, just not doing it.
That's funny.
I can't even remember the song. I'm sure it was even a good song. I just no, not happening.
Not going to have that comparison made anymore.
No, not going to happen. Actually, what's been really great is sometimes when you get other people come up to you, like, you sound like this person, and it's not. Mac Powell, it's like, oh, it's such a breath of fresh air. Like, okay, I'll take that. A little different. Anyway, so looking back, I can actually remember when I first kind of found out about them. I was working in a Christian retail store, sold books and music. Yeah, there's a couple.
I don't think those exist that much anymore.
Yeah, about an hour and a half from here.
Yeah.
I don't remember the connection that the owner of this retail store had, but he knew someone that he could get albums and artists who were on independent labels.
Okay, cool.
And this guy had brought in a few samples to listen to, and from a label called Grey Dot Records, which is a Christian independent at the time, and one of those being Third Day. And if we just look at the screen right over beside us here, that is actually what the album was. And I can remember listening to that album. I remember really liking that album. For whatever reason, I'm guessing because I didn't have any money, I never bought the album.
Yep.
But every time I would go in, because we had like a listening kind of center, we had that thing, I would put this album on because I really, really liked it. And of course, I don't know how many were brought, not many, 3 or 4 copies, I think. And they went out really fast. I remember being disappointed. I didn't buy them, but it wasn't very long that they signed on to a bigger company. And then we go to the next slide. We got this album here that most people would know as their first album, even though technically it is like their third or something like that. But it's the one that you can find. And the difference from the last album to this album is the cover, because that's what they did when they signed a new band. Yeah. Is that they what got you more in the door? Yes, they wanted to like you. Yes, they had to think they could sell you. All the marketing stuff, but like if you came in with a decently recorded album that they can just recover,
release right away,
so put the least amount of money towards and send out, they like that.
I'm sure they do.
They like
That's a way to make money easily,
make money faster, especially after
risk.
Someone who, you never know, because will they take off? Will people really, really jump onto that?
It makes sense financially.
Anyway, so it became one of my favorite albums. I actually recently was able to find it on vinyl because they did like a 25-year
anniversary
edition. Yeah,
nice.
And I would still say it's probably one of my favorites, just because it went definitely been times where I just haven't listened to it for a long time. I go back to it and I can sing most of the songs word for word. Just they just come back to you very naturally.
It's amazing how that happens, eh?
So I could have picked many songs from this album, but I really wanted to. I chose Thief because it is definitely one that has resonated a lot. And the reason I love this is just the structure of the song.
Okay.
it is the retelling kind of the story of the criminal who would be crucified along with Jesus.
Yep.
It's found in Luke 23, 32 to 43. And in the song, I just love it. One is that there's no repetition in the song till the very kind of end.
Yeah,
it's really just kind of telling the story.
sure.
And it's such a
ballad.
Yeah, it's very much that. And it's such a great use of dynamics and melody that just like, as things build up, the music builds up and it gets you the intensity of the parts of the song and brings it down. And I really think they just did a beautiful job arranging it as well as just the lyrics that you follow along story wise, but then you're riding with the music. And as we said, it helps you connect. Like you take all of that away, you might say, hey, that's good lyrics, but you add in the dynamics to the song and coming up, and you're like kind of, for me anyway, it was just, I was like right in the story.
So did it hold up over time? I know some songs you might have been just totally in love with when you were younger, and you go back and listen to them, and it's still a good song, and you still like it, but it's like, it's not still in my top. I put it top 5, but maybe it's really more of a top 20 kind of thing. Is that the same for you here, or is it different?
I don't know. It's not the same because there's so many songs have come in.
Yeah.
Like probably it's been displaced a little bit only because of different other songs that have come in.
But it sounds very much like you like the song.
I still like the song. Like when I saw Mac Powell just again a couple of months ago, he did this song.
Oh, cool.
And
that's really nice.
Yeah, and it was just sort of like, oh, I was really right there.
Yeah.
In that moment. So it really, to this day, as much as it did 25 years ago, kind of just impact me and enter the story. So I've always been someone who's been just extremely hard on myself.
Okay.
I've even had people in my life that, that were aware of that and have been understandably concerned because they actually, I remember one person even saying to me, beating yourself is kind of your MO. Beating up yourself is your MO. So that first verse that says, I'm a thief, I'm a murderer, walking up this lonely hill, what have I done? No, I don't remember. No one knows just how I feel. I really resonate with that loneliness and disorientation that I really get through that lyric. I've never thought myself a thief or a murderer, but just everything around that, like just, okay, I'm in this place. What have I done? Just all of that disorientation that comes right there. I made this mistake, or I've perceived that I've made this mistake.
Yeah. That's
usually a big time sometimes when you're dealing with beating yourself up. The littlest mistake is perceived as the worst thing any man could ever done.
Easily be done.
Yeah. And just, I just thought everything was falling apart in that next line. And I know that my time is coming soon. I can remember that being so real to me because it was just sort of like beating myself up. Of course, inevitability of everything's falling apart.
Yeah, and you're waiting for a shoe to drop or consequences.
Absolutely.
That may not actually ever happen, but you're always expecting it to happen.
I'm very good at catastrophizing.
Yeah. Oh,
that's a big word in there.
$10 word.
Yeah. We just throw random words sometimes. Yeah, and then lyrically on is kind of the second line, or the second part of the verse. It talks about, it's been such a long time since experiencing peace and rest. And again, we're in the midst of that disoriented feelings, disorientation. Like even if we haven't been there long, it can feel, just the perception of the last time you feel peace and rest can feel like this. It's been years.
Yeah, been forever.
Can be so encompassing. So I resonated with all of that. And I can safely say that shame was my identity. Shame was something that was a huge burden. I carried it around, something I have to continue to be aware of today because it can easily trip me up even today. But as the song moves to focus on Jesus, and we get to the idea of the cross and the walk to where they would, where they would plant the cross down and eventually crucify him, like where it talks about the mocking he received, the beating, the nailing to the cross, I kind of became aware of how I was doing the equivalent to myself.
Sure.
So I would be putting myself down, and I would wonder why Jesus, much less anyone, would want anything to do with me. So at the end of the song, with the invitation of Jesus to join him in paradise, the song kind of added a new layer of meaning. Just that the idea that he's taken this shame that thing that I was doing to myself, like he was receiving that, and he's offering kind of forgiveness and an invitation.
Relief.
Yeah. And not just a shallow forgiveness, but like an invitation to life.
It's a very hopeful thing Jesus says to him.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just almost I think where it kind of hit me as far as what that criminal might have been thinking of, that definitely I was, and probably projecting onto that story a little bit, was just like that offer. We're just like, are you kidding me? Do you want me? Are you sure? Like, are you kidding me? Like, really?
Yeah.
Like, it just like just almost a disbelief, and I think that song, truthfully, just that moment hit differently that I never got from reading the story.
Sure.
Just the utter disbelief, but also, Jen, just the sense of belonging that just would flood me with just when I able to put myself into the story, which I really, for me, that song really does.
Yeah.
It becomes less about the story I've read and the story I'm participating in.
Sure, and I think that's where music plays a very powerful part.
Absolutely.
In engaging different parts of your brain to interact with the story in a different way.
Yeah, and it's definitely what it did for me. And so, the start of the song, is this sort of the journey, kind of journey in life that is teeming with shame. In the end of the song, it's still a journey, but it's one full of abundance, belonging, and life-giving life. And so, I think when I first listened to it, its meaning was probably purely about getting to heaven one day. And that's sort of like, as I've understood more of what Jesus is offering all of us, it has sort of morphed to something a little bit bigger and more.
And I think that's a very common misconception people have about following Jesus. It's just like a heaven insurance policy.
Well, yeah, and it's just hold on tight until that day comes.
It's more than that, yeah.
It's so much more than that. It's really now, and I think this song, especially for me over time, has sort of evolved in understanding that it's now challenged me to living in light of that invitation, in light of heaven.
Sure.
It's about responding to the prayer Jesus teaches us in Matthew 6, the Lord's Prayer. Verse 10, it says, "Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven." So it kind of can lead us, and leads me anyway, to over the years to asking what are the characteristics of paradise, of heaven. Not just white knuckling it till Jesus says, "Okay, it's time now." It's what does it look like now in the here and now, and then also be excited for what that ultimate paradise will look like. And
that's the message Jesus preaches, that the kingdom of heaven is here now.
Yeah, it's here now. And so looking to the life of Jesus for that guidance of what are the characteristics of paradise.
Sure.
That we can live it now. And even looking to things like Colossians 3, that I think is very helpful with that, is therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, patience. Like you have that sort of thing, which is really even a bit of a callback to Sermon on the Mount there, like Paul's reading in Colossians. Like it's definitely something in light of that. And it just becomes this, like, if this is how we're living in light of this invitation of that Jesus extends to paradise, how do we live in light of that today? Not just white knuckling it, holding on till
we get to the end.
We get to the end.
Yeah.
And then the fact that maybe we can hopefully, through things like clothing ourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, that we're extending some of that to other people.
Extending God's kingdom to other people here and now. Well, thanks for watching and listening today. Hopefully you related to what we're talking about today, and how this song may have been maybe one of your favorite songs, or maybe you've never listened to it before and you're going to go listen to it now. And if you feel like you get something different out of it, please make some notes in the comments. We'd love to discuss that with you. But I think just to kind of summarize what we talked about today, I think that we can really understand from both the Bible verses and the song that this is based on is that we don't have to live our lives full of shame, and that Jesus has an invitation for something better. And this song is a beautiful reminder of that shame is not our identity.
Yeah.
So thanks again for watching. Please like and subscribe. And if you do have a maybe even another favorite song that kind of relates to this, please make note of it in the comments, and we'll see you next time.